Well, all of our lives are filled with some messiness. Isn't that true? I know it's true of me, and I suspect it's true of all of us. But today I want to take you back to about 1100 BC. In the book of Judges, in chapter 6, we meet a man by the name of Gideon. The surroundings of his life was full of messiness. First of all, the world at large was a mess. The countries that surrounded Israel would come in and rob them and plunder them with great regularity, and there seemed to be no defense against these oppressors. Then his country was a mess because there seemed to be an absence of real leadership, and those who should have been in leadership were particularly corrupt. Even his family was messy. As you read the entire account that runs from chapter 6 through chapter 8 of Judges, you'll find that his father at least was sympathetic to those who were believing in a false religion, if not downright participating with them. And then you have Gideon himself. We first meet him, he's hiding in fear. He is threshing grain in a wine press. Now, a threshing floor looked like this. It was usually on a high spot, very visible, easy place to separate the grain from the stalks that produced it. And a wine press looked like this. It was down in the ground. It was a hole in the ground. It made a hard job even harder. Well, he was fearful, and that indicates that. His world was a mess. His country was a mess. His family was a mess. And he was a mess. Does that sound familiar? If so, we're going to learn from the message that God delivered to Gideon to encourage him in the midst of his messy world. Now, Gideon was just basically minding his own business when an angel of the Lord, the angel of the Lord, came to visit him, and God delivered a message to him. Now, Gideon's mission and Gideon's calling is going to be different than any of ours. It was unique. But the message from God to encourage him to fulfill his calling is applicable to every last one of us. And it's what we need to hear in the midst of our messy world. I just want to read two verses found in Judges chapter 6, verses 15 and 16, where we find these words. And this is now Gideon answering this angel of the Lord. And he said to him, "O my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." And the Lord said to him, "Surely I will be with you. Surely I will be with you." Isn't that great words to read? "Surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as one man." Early in this chapter, the Midianites when they came, were described with all their camels and all their men. It was like a locust plague covering the land. He says, it's just like taking out one man. It's going to be relatively easy. Well, he had that job to fulfill. I don't know as any one of us are going to be called to be warriors as Gideon was, but we are called to do whatever God calls us to do. We are tasked with that. But the same encouragement is for us. Now look at that phrase where it says, "Surely I will be with you." That is the promise. That's what we focus on. The fact that God says, I'm going to be right there with you. Whatever you need, I am strong enough. Whatever you need to know, I am wise enough. I am right there available to you. Let's look at that little phrase, "Surely I will be with you." Let's break it down into its constituent parts. First of all, surely I. Focus first of all on the person. Who is it that's talking? This message is from God himself. And God says to us numerous times in the Bible, for those of us who are followers of him and those of us who have come to faith in him through Jesus Christ, that we have God with us every single microsecond. He will never leave us. He'll never forsake us. And it is God who is here, the God who can do all things. There's a line from a song I heard recently, and I love it. It says, "Why do we act like God is not strong enough? Why God is not sufficient enough," in other words. Why do we act like God just can't pull off what God says he can do? We need to remember the person. The person is God. Secondly, we need to remember the promise. He says, "Surely I will." You have it on the absolute faithfulness of God himself, bound up in the character of God himself, that he will fulfill this promise to be with you. Sometimes it feels like we are forsaken. Earlier in this chapter, Gideon had said, "Why have we been forgotten by God?" Well, it felt that way. But the truth was God had not abandoned them. They had abandoned their faith in God. And we need to renew our faith in God by saying, "Lord, you have promised to always be with me and be with us." Count on that. And then lastly, focus on the place, this wonderful place. He says, "Surely I," that's the person, "surely I will be," that's the promise, "I will be with you." This is the place this takes place, and it's right wherever we are. Right there in that wine press, down in that hole in the ground where Gideon was found, God was with him. When he became a great warrior and defeated the Midianites like one man, you will find that God was with him then. It's only when he was not allowing God to operate in his life and he was not paying attention to God's rules and God's laws and God's word, he got into trouble. And by the way, I'd encourage you to read all of Gideon's story. It's Judges chapter 6 through 8. You could read the whole story of his life. But focus on the place. Wherever you are today, wherever you are in the messiness of this world, however you relate to the messiness of this kingdom, where it's a mess, this land of ours, our country, even in the messiness of our families and our relationships, and when ourselves, our personal lives, when we're a mess, when everything is a mess, what do you focus on? Surely I will be with you. Surely I, the person, is God. Surely I will be. That's the promise. Surely I will be with you. That's the place, wherever you are. Focus on this today. This will encourage you no matter what's going on in this messy world. God says he will be with you. Count on it. Act like it. Trust in it. God bless you.